All right. Hey, Benny, thank you so much for joining me. Can you give a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. As you said it already, like my name is Benny, and I'm like very active in the open source world because I worked in the past almost 8 years at Wire, which is an end-to-end encrypted messenger. Back then, when we started out at Wire, we like published all code in public. It's still public, so all the server code, client code, everything like is on GitHub, and that's also where then my open source, yeah, can we say career, because you don't make money with open source, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's when I started then like contributing like actively on GitHub, also like on Stack Overflow then to answer some questions, because we've been always like working with the latest and greatest web APIs. So that also raised a lot of questions to ask and then also to answer on Stack Overflow. And yeah, now I'm in a different company overseeing some teams that work with TypeScript. We also back then at Wire worked with TypeScript, and that is also what brought me here today.
Perfect. It's interesting how the times have changed, honestly. Like, I did a lot of open source as well, and definitely there was no money in open source. It was very difficult to find something that you can monetize. As an example, even the creator of CodeMirror was only getting like $2,000 a month. And CodeMirror is something that was used quite heavily on the web at that time. For example, the Chrome developer tools were actually built using that. But nowadays, like Cindersaurus is an example, he's got a lot of sponsors on his work, but then again, the amount of effort that he has to do to the like hundreds of packages that he maintains, it is still a difficult path. But at least there is some light at the end of the tunnel nowadays compared to back then. So that's a great introduction of yourself. Tell me how you got started with YouTube.
Oh yes, with YouTube I got started during the Corona pandemic. There was
Same.
a time, yeah, yeah. I guess like a lot of people then used this time to also like get better equipment at home because you had to work from
Hmm.
home. So I also like had also many colleagues that then were like getting good microphones, headphones, desks. Yeah, everyone was having a desk that you can stand at. So that was also when I started out to like get better equipment, and then of course you had like a lot of virtual meetings, right? Because Corona, everyone
Hmm.
had to like stay in front of a webcam, and then people also said, "Ah, I can't hear you, right? Can you turn up the volume and this and that?" And that's also where I then started to tweak my setup. And yeah, while researching then what devices to use, headphones, microphones, I then also like always landed on YouTube. And I was very happy that people uploaded videos like how to set things up. And then I
Hmm.
was also thinking, I also know how to set things up. Uh, n- Not particular microphones, but TypeScript projects. So then I thought, yeah, I could also like yeah, make videos about this, right? And it turned out that they've been quite helpful because I did that then in my spare time after work, and I could reference some of my videos at work because I'm also mentoring junior developers. And
Hmm.
then I could sometimes say, hey, you know what about this functionality? I actually like made a video yesterday. Like, you can have a look at it.
Yep. That's how a lot of us work. And why I think it's very important to have some form of hands-on experience and like experience with other developers, because then you actually get involved with the industry and then you find the answers to questions that people actually have instead of just questions that you have for yourself. It gives a bit of a grounding experience. And then if you talk to a lot of people, like you mentioned, Stack Overflow, that's something that powered a lot of the work that I did on my TypeScript book, where the same questions came up again and again. For example, a very common question is around this. Like this in JavaScript is still something that confuses people as they get started, because the default class function you write, it doesn't preserve this, right? Unless you use an arrow and a property initializer.
Hmm.
Um, and it's still not something that you can search for quite easily for whatever reason, because there are like 100 different versions of the same question. All of those questions on Stack Overflow, by the way, will definitely get closed and linked to a particular reference, which probably I don't own. But I will still answer the questions that people have in this specific context around that thing. And that sort of powered a number of the tutorials that I built around the thing as well. So, talking about YouTube, you also run a website called TypeScript TV. What's the story there?
Yeah, that came along with YouTube because I needed a name for a channel, and I was thinking, okay, like how can I name that? And somehow then I thought of TypeScript TV because it's like like a video. Although TV doesn't really fit because probably most people watch it on monitors or phones, but. Yeah, like I think like old school television is something, right, that gets more in the background these days. But I found it quite fun still because like I'm TV generation, and then I just played around, like sketched like a logo, like drew a TV, and then put the TS logo inside, and that looked.
I actually wrote down over here logo because like I really like the logo of TypeScript TV, and I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah, this was one of the first drafts. I did it like all by myself, like getting a TV, putting TS inside, and then I was checking if the domain is available because my plan was to have my own website where I can also like blog, and TypeScript.tv was available, and then I thought, okay, this is a sign. And then I got it, and then I also like was pretty happy that I didn't got into any copyright infringements or trademark issues with Microsoft. Yeah, they know that I have this website, they know that I have TypeScript TV, and that I upload my videos there, and they are fine with it.
Yeah. Interestingly, I was actually thinking about that. In terms of social platforms, what's working best for me right now is LinkedIn. With YouTube as well as with Twitter, you sort of have to pay to play. Like with Twitter, unless you're verified, you don't get the necessary boosts. And then Twitter is a bit weird in that if you post a link directly to YouTube on Twitter, that doesn't get boosted as much. And the way around that, which a lot of developers use, is they'll post the mention that they have uploaded a video on YouTube and just the thumbnail image, and then reply to that and then do the video. Whereas with LinkedIn, I find that there aren't that many tricks that you need to do. You just post it, and if it's good engagement, LinkedIn doesn't care if it's off channel to YouTube or anything else. And that I think is a symbol of the modern Microsoft, where TypeScript is in that ecosystem as well, and it doesn't actually care. As long as you're doing the right thing, they sort of support that. So on TypeScript.tv, one big section over there is the TypeScript errors. How did that get started?
Yeah, that was a project that started quite long ago. Probably like when I started learning TypeScript. Like I'm still learning TypeScript, right? Because
we are all, even I am, honestly. I'm surprised how much I'm still learning as well. But that's just like you move off to something else like React or Next for 2 months, and then you come back to TypeScript, and it's like, okay, there's so many new things that you want to share. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah, like we are continuous learners, right? Like we can always learn something new and from a lot of people. And I noticed when I started out with TypeScript that the most obvious thing that you then see are compiler errors, because they don't exist in JavaScript, right? So that's the first thing that is new when you are working with TypeScript, and that's the first thing that people and myself complained about, like, oh, why is there this error? And I can see that also like in some posts, on Reddit, where people like start the first time with TypeScript, right? They then share their frustration. Yeah, they say then, oh, stupid compiler and right? Like the tooling is not good enough and so on. But it's actually like a lot of times it's not the tooling. It's basically like you as a programmer, right? That forgot something. But it's just hard to understand because the compiler error messages are also quite technical. Yeah, they use some words that are not so common, especially not if you haven't worked with a sophisticated programming language before, if you just know JavaScript. And that's where I then started also to collect these compiler errors, and where I like wrote down for myself how I fix these things, because I'm a numbers person. Yeah, I can easily remember numbers. So I knew like, TypeScript error 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, like
that's
I knew.
impressive.
And then this is what gets stuck with me, the number 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. And then I was like, I fixed this last week. Yeah, like I had a similar error. How did I fix it? And then I was not writing it down. And then I started to write it down. And this is where basically this collection of TypeScript errors and their solutions started out. And then I thought, yeah, when I have that for me, I can also share it and see if it helps other people.
And that's great. And all of this information is free. So my next question to you would be, is there any plan to monetize around this?
Yeah, it would be great if I could monetize errors because there are a lot of them. Yeah, not really. No, I did it all for free because my incentive was, and that was also like, that goes also back a long way because when I started blogging, that was even before like particularly about TypeScript, I also like had a blog where I just like in the very early days talked about Java. Yeah, like I was a Java student at university. And I then like also ran into configuration issues with Java, and I then started to like present my solutions on my blog. And the incentive here for me was these configurations sometimes to figure them out took like, let's say 10 hours. And I was then really frustrated because usually these configurations are marginal things and they don't they don't give you any new capabilities. Yeah, okay, you learned how to set up a config for a certain tool, but as soon as this tool gets outdated, this knowledge doesn't bring you much value anymore. Yeah, it's not like you learn a concept. It's not like you learn about, okay, what are generators? You learn the concept and you can apply this concept over and over in other programming languages. No, you have a very specific thing that you learn just for that framework, and it took you 10 hours to figure out. And yeah, it made me like angry a bit. And then I shared the solutions, and then I was thinking, I spent 10 hours on it, but if there are 9 other people that now can just Google and find my blog and then maybe just spend 1 hour on it, yeah, it divides the amount of time that I then spent. And if just then like, if it's just me and someone else and then we spend together 11 hours, yeah, like the other person 1 hour, me 10 hours, then I can divide it in half. And it's just like 5.5 hours per person. And that makes it better, I find.
Nice. It reminds me of a saying that all great software is built to build our personal blogs. Like when you think of PHP is personal homepages. That's what drives a lot of the things. And while building Boolean art as well, a lot of packages that I use are actually packages that people build for their own blogs. For example, the code highlighter that I use is designed for blogs essentially, and essentially Boolean art is a glorified learning platform blog, and I believe so is Total TypeScript. And another thing that I want to mention is that with TypeScript errors, they have this concept of 1000 series errors are like parsing errors, and then 2000 is like perhaps semantic errors and stuff like that. Is that something that you've noticed as well? Is that something that you mention on the website?
That the errors have classifications?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like this is also what I noticed because I then, like I started out writing down the errors, and then I saw numbers like 5,000 something, and I was like, oh God, I collected 50, but there are 5,000. That will be a ton of work. And then I even saw 18,000 something. But I noticed that there are sometimes jumps. Like, for example, like there are errors that start with like 8,000, let's say, or 18,000. But I haven't seen like 17,999, for example. Yeah, I haven't seen this error yet in the wild. And then I looked up the wiki page and I saw that these diagnostic errors are like categorized. Yeah, you have everything that is 2,000 is a semantic error. Everything with 4,000 is a declaration emission error. Then 7,000 are type errors. And then I saw, okay, there are these jumps. And I think like, I'm not 100% sure about it, but I think that there is also some space in between. I think like they said then 6,000 command line errors. Yeah, this range is reserved for command line errors. Maybe error 6001 to 6,999 isn't specified yet. Yeah, maybe it's just that they are at 6,300 and they are like still like 700 left. But this is like what I think it is. And I think they left these spacers to like add new errors in the future.
And it's interesting that the error codes have been stable since, like, as long as you've been doing this. They haven't changed the meaning of 2500 as an example since you've been in the website. Is that correct?
I hope so. Otherwise, I need to update everything. But do you think the error messages got a little smarter?
Yes, that's something they do. And the way they do it is a bit interesting in that the prefix, I think, sort of tends to remain the same, but they add more and more explanation on top of it. As an example, identifier not found would still be identifier not found, but it will be followed by did you mean is something that they add on top. I think sometimes they definitely have probably modified the original version of the error as well, but modifying the error response to TypeScript is definitely something that the TypeScript team is heavily invested in and constantly thinking about improving.
Yeah, I saw there is even this project, right, from Total TypeScript to convert the error messages into human readable messages, that have like different terminology to make them sound more understandable.
Yeah, I found that particularly interesting. So I liked the pretty TS error is not that, correct? Pretty TS error is basically takes a statement by statement and expands that statement in place. Whereas the total TypeScript one is sort of like tries to rephrase it into a different way of saying things. But pretty TS errors sort of, one more thing that it does is links to your website as well. How did that happen?
Yeah. Let's talk about the pretty TS error VS Code extension. It's quite popular, by the way. I recently looked it up. It had more than 700,000 downloads. And it was built by another guy. And he actually added me or added my website without me knowing this at first. So that was quite...
How did you find out?
Quite fun. How did I find out? I was watching a YouTube video actually, from CEO, T3GG, and he presented this extension. And then I also went to the website of the extension, to install it, and then I saw that that they are linking to TypeScript TV, and I was like, wow, that is really cool. I was feeling quite honored with that, and I was also seeing the potential that now a lot of more people can access to that information. The extension was, by the way, built by Joaf, and he also then contacted me on Twitter. He's said hey, Benny, you do cool stuff, and happy to integrate it. What is really cool there is that people then also can see a video, because in the beginning I also made some videos about how to fix these errors. And this is actually what he liked when he built this extension. Because the extension itself does formatting, because most of the times it comes very unreadable if you have a type that doesn't match and your type is not named. You don't have a type alias for it. You just have an object literal. Then TypeScript gives you such a long stack trace, because it says type and then it really writes down every bit of the type is not compatible to every other bit of the type. And let's say you have two object structures with 100 properties and they just have a difference in one property. It's hard to read when it's not formatted. And this is actually what he solved in the extension. It's the types are nicely formatted, so you can easier spot where's the difference. And then he wanted to add error explanation on top of that without writing all the explanations. So then he put a link to this total TypeScript error explanation. And then he liked the approach of also having videos to see how the error is being fixed. And this is then when he linked TypeScript TV. And very, very happy for it that it turned out this way, and that someone else is also finding it useful.
I find the format of the TypeScript errors, the native ones from the compiler, a bit confusing. I completely understand why they've done it, the way it's formatted is initially it gives you the core reason, right? It'll say, for example, that property foo not found or property foo does not match. And then it would basically go all the way back from that to the root and be like, alpha does not match beta, alpha sub does not match beta sub, and then finally eventually go back to the fact that property foo not found. And I think that's what confuses people, because they imagine there's only one direction that you're supposed to pass the errors, but it's like, first, here's the final reason, and then it's like the root cause analysis. And then additionally, the root cause analysis is separated by new lines. And quite commonly it'll start wrapping, right? Because like the error message will be quite long. Like every cause statement will be long enough that it will wrap. So it becomes a bit hard for the human brain to parse the fact that, okay, now this is the next thing, and this is the next cause, this is the next cause. And that's sort of what the pretty TS error thing does, is it adds nice formatting spaces between the different cause analysis so that the human brain can follow it a bit easier. And plus it makes it look like here's the final error, and then makes it very clear that here's the cause kind of a thing, which is all sort of compressed in the native compiler error. I think that there's room for both. It's good that the way TypeScript does it as well, because it means that it becomes easier for tools like pretty TS error to parse it. If TypeScript made the effort of being more concerned about human readability versus easy parsing, then it would make building tools like pretty TS error a bit harder. So you've spent a lot of time on Stack Overflow as well. You've mentioned that. Are there any other platforms that you use to help developers? Is there anything that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, Stack Overflow, of course, the main thing. I also tried out Reddit, and yeah, like I find that Reddit is also very good in terms of like recent technology. Like every day, like there are posts then highlighted where someone found a framework to build something. What I don't like so much about Reddit is that they sometimes close the comments. Like old threads get closed quite quickly, and that leads to people creating new posts because the old one is closed. They can't comment on that, and especially like in technology, and especially with TypeScript evolving, like in more recent version of TypeScript, you have more ways to fix something or do something. Yeah, like I think we just recently got the feature that when you filter items in an array, that what is being returned is typed and not cannot be, or is not undefined. Yeah, like people like quick fix.
It infers the type guard instead of just a Boolean function.
Yeah, and I think this was what people were looking for a very long time. So let's say this comes years later, and is now a viable solution. You can't comment that on Reddit because the thread from back then has been closed. So you need to make a new thread, and this is, I think, where it for one like has always like lively and new threads and comments, and is very recent. But it's also a bit sad because like then you like end up when you search for something having 10 posts from different times, and then which is the good one. Where on Stack Overflow you have only, or most of the times, the main question that is maybe already 7 years old, and then people write, oh, in recent versions you can do it like this, and then if people ask the same questions, it gets flagged as duplicate, right? And then you only like have maybe, or like you have the source of truth in one thread, which I like. But I can see that a lot of people on Stack Overflow are frustrated about it, because especially for newcomers that like to open new threads, because they're new, and then it gets closed as duplicate, and then they're, oh, you're always closing my stuff, like I'm out of here. And this is actually also a problem.
I'll actually admit I'm not a good citizen in that. And I've alluded to that previously as well, that people will ask the same question. I will still provide an answer on their context, and I should probably search for a similar question in the past and then link to that and close that. But then a few things happen. A lot of my time gets used up instead of just helping the person solve the issue at hand. And then B, it doesn't give the person a great experience as well, I believe, because now they have to map their issue to an existing issue and sort of understand how that applies to that. But a consequence of that is that quite often my replies will get like flagged But at 200K reputation, it sort of doesn't really affect me as much. So I can sort of take that risk. And it's weird because in my mind, I'm doing the right thing and I don't care if the outcome is a bit negative towards me. How do you feel about that? Do you reply to the question even if it's like the 100th time you've seen it, or do you try to find an existing one and link to that?
Good question. Because Stack Overflow also has these digital awards, right? And you can get awards for like 100 things answered, 100 things flagged, 100 things edited, or like if you add if you add knowledge to the community wiki, right? They have this community wiki. So and then you get these medals, bronze, silver, gold. And like there was one year where I was interested in hunting medals. So then I also like answered I think a question like for the 100th times, because I wanted to get the medal for answering questions. So I really used it in like a game, like in an RPG, you know, what is the next task I have to do to reach to that point. But it's probably much better to reference the source.
So hindsight is 2020, and I guess there is no right choice that we make that is going to be eternal, right? But one of the things that I feel is that instead of being on Stack Overflow, perhaps I should have helped people more on Twitter. Do you have something like that as well, that you feel that that's the platform that you I'll give you my reason. With Stack Overflow, the people that know me on Stack Overflow, but a lot of people assume that because I don't have the biggest voice on TypeScript on Twitter, I'm not perhaps as informed as people that view me on Stack Overflow would view. And a lot of developers, when they look at other developers, they look at their Twitter profile, their YouTube profile. They don't look at their Stack Overflow profile, especially like out of the hiring context. I think Stack Overflow definitely helps a lot in the hiring context. But in the general social presence context, I think Twitter sort of outweighs that. Do you find that there's like, would you go to another platform, aim a specific platform kind of thing? Yeah,
you probably have more experience on this than I have, because like you also like are on a lot of educational platforms, right? You did Egghead, you did video courses on Udemy, so you've tried different formats, right? This is also like how we both met. Because I was back then reading your Git book about TypeScript and really liked it. And that was actually my way into TypeScript. And this is where I like got to see your profile in a way. And then I also I think from Git I went to your Stack Overflow. I saw that, and of course you then I credit that. Yeah, I think if someone is very good on Stack Overflow, I trust this person because I know how hard the Stack Overflow rules are. I know how often people get downvoted and how the feedback is quite rough. So becoming big there means you really need to go through a lot of things, right? Where on YouTube, you just need to be the loudest and not the best. And then you get a lot of views and followers and subscribers. Yeah. Whereas on Stack Overflow, if you are the loudest, you probably would get downvoted the most because you answered duplicate questions, which is not liked by the community.
One thing that I did weirdly on Stack Overflow was I did link to the Git book, the TypeScript book, just because, and the reason it wasn't actually motivated, and thinking back about it, wasn't motivated by it sort of promoting the book. It was meant as that was the only reference at that time. Like the TypeScript docs were not up to par before. Like Ota did an excellent job uplifting the TypeScript docs. But originally they were more along the lines of, you already understand JavaScript, here's how TypeScript sort of lies on top of that. Whereas the people on Stack Overflow sort of had a question for both JavaScript and TypeScript, and they didn't have a great reference for those kind of things. So I did link to the Git book. But I found an interesting pattern there, because if I linked too fast, people immediately sort of downvoted, of course. So what I had to do was actually quite often write the same thing again, phrase it, and then link to the reference so that still have some idea of documentation for this thing exists, instead of being like, oh, this is magical information coming from this magical person kind of thing. But yeah, just an interesting journey. Anything else that you want to give a shout out to?
Yes.
Excellent.
To TSFix.
Oh yes, excellent.
Yeah, that's
what's the story there?
Like the story there is, Because I spent so much time with TypeScript and fixing errors, that I also started correcting some error messages in TypeScript, in the TypeScript code base. Yeah, so I was going to the TypeScript repository, and I was like fixing some of the messages there, and then I also noticed that in the code base they have the possibilities to automatically fix errors. And I was like surprised, and then I was also like having like a small discussion with Andrew Branch on Twitter, and he mentioned that there is also this TSFix project, and like it would be great if those fixes could be contributed there, because I actually had another side project with you, like where you gave me some ideas on how to migrate projects from CommonJS to ECMAScript modules.
Yep.
And this is like most of the times just simple change A to B because the import syntax changes. But if you follow this, you quickly arrive then at the solution. But if you need to do it for large code bases with 100 files, it's quite like annoying. So then you showed me tsmorph that can modify TypeScript code programmatically. And then I built this TypeScript to ESM, like based on your prototype. This then was like covering the conversion. And then I got to hear from the TypeScript team, oh, that would be so cool if just adding these extensions would be available as a code fix in the TypeScript code base, so that quick fixes could be applied that you see in VS Code. And then I was discovering TSFix, which is a side project. Like it's from Microsoft, it's in their organization, but it's actually not actively maintained by Microsoft. So I also like recently contributed to this tool, and they said, like we haven't released it on NPM yet because it's still in the making, and it looked like it was built by some, like I think some interns or trainees at Microsoft that then like work on these side projects to make the tooling better. Because the TypeScript team is not primarily they are primarily working on the language, but they are also working overall on a better developer experience. Yeah, that's also why TypeScript was built, to improve the developer experience. So they also built tooling around to improve the developer experience, and VS Code is one of these projects, right, that improve developer experience, and TSFix is another project. And this can actually like apply the fixes that you see, like in VS Code, hey, quick fix something, can apply it automatically from a CLI on your code base.
Nice. It's on NPM now?
No. so you can find it in the Microsoft organization on GitHub, TSFix. You need to clone it, and then you need to build it locally, and you need to link it locally, and then you can use it, because they say it's like not very well tested. It has a lot of corner cases, and because of this, they are not 100% happy with the quality of it, and that's why like they refrain it a bit from like publishing it. And also because it modifies your code, it can probably modify it in a way you don't expect. And if you don't have version control, then it becomes a big problem, and that's why like they don't take any warranty.
Yeah. I think it might need to be outside of the Microsoft kind of a project. It's surprising how, I know of developers that still use Google Drive or iCloud to sort of store their code. But version control is necessary for running any kind of automation on the code base. But interestingly, like in terms of fixing errors, I'm actually more interested in the migration thing, like the TS to ESM. While it fixes errors as well, it's more along the lines of a migration, right? Like a code uplift. Did you find any tools aimed at TypeScript for that, beyond what we discussed previously, just using tsmorph and building your own kind of thing?
To uplift code? Yes, I recently also built my blog using Astro. And when upgrading Astro, Astro notified me, hey, there's Astro version 4 or 5, and they showed me an upgrade command. And I also built apps to learn programming for free. That is built.
I saw that app, really pretty.
Thank you. This goes to my friend and co-worker on the project, like Rohit. He did the styling. He did very, very well with this. And this app we built using Expo with TypeScript and React Native. And Expo also has an upgrade command. And I then executed the Expo upgrade, and it then changed the dependency versions on my package.json file. But it also modifies code here and there, code in TypeScript files. And I was interested, how did they do that? Yeah. And sometimes configurations, they also allow some configs to be in JS. So they also can modify JavaScript code, not just TypeScript. And for TypeScript, of course, we can use TSMorph, but for JavaScript, I then found that there's the JS, I think it's called Code Shift.
That's a classic one. It's from, I believe it's from the React team itself, actually, honestly, or that ecosystem at least.
Must come from Meta because it's in a Facebook organization. And then I discovered these frameworks to build code modifications. To build code mods, and then you can patch things. And this is also what I got then interested in. And I saw recently also by a colleague, Igor, greetings to Igor at this time. He showed me that there's a JSON patch. Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah, it's basically JSON diff kind of thing. And I think it was actually demoed by the MobX person to me once upon a time, and sending JSON patch commands to the server and then modifying the JSON object and pushing the patches to all the different clients kind of thing. That's all I know of it.
Yeah, it's a real RFC. So it's something that was standardized. And it's as you said, these are instructions on how to modify JSON. Yeah, there's an operations being defined. You can have replace, add, remove. It's basically CRUD for JSON. And I didn't knew that this was a thing. And I also then found it interesting because rather than programmatically defining, you can have more a declarative way, because you declare your comments. These are the operations, and they are then being executed on it. And I used that also recently to then modify package.json files to also build code mods that leverage JSON patch to then adjust package.json files to, for example, upgrade from type common.js to type module, to make ECMAScript modules. So this is then what I played around with, and it's not TSMorph, but still a way to then configure files that are not typed.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time, Manny. We can talk for ages. It was planned to be more of a 20-minute talk, but questions just kept coming, and there are more, I believe, in the list that we originally decided. We just organically came up with new ones. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Thank you for joining the audience.
Likewise.